Creative Living, utilizing today's technology with the best of the past to bring you innovative ideas and up-to-date information for creative lifestyles in today's active world. With your host, Sheryl Borden.
Welcome to Creative Living. Today, we're going to learn how to use a new template to create blocks for the cathedral window quilt, which is so popular with quilters. And we'll demonstrate some delicious country desserts too. One of my guests is Erica Plank, and she's come up with a great tool for quilters. It's a 9-inch seam pressing template that guarantees perfect corners every time. It is designed for seam pressing only, and you use a dry setting, not a steam setting on the iron. She'll demonstrate how to use it while making a cathedral window quilt block. This is such a beautiful quilt, but it is sometimes hard to get sharp points and corners throughout the quilt. Her business is called Unseen Hands, and she's from Puyallup, Washington. Another guest is Charlene Patton, and she's with the Home Baking Association. Charlene loves to talk about family traditions and recipes that can be shared and passed down from generation to generation. She's going to demonstrate a favorite from her newest cookbook, Baking with Friends. Featuring quirky illustrations of dragonfly bakers and bumblebee spice specialists, this unique book features healthy baking recipes from the Home Baking Association that will really excite children into learning to bake their own special creations. She's from Topeka, Kansas. Charlene, thank you so much for being here. When you said we were going to talk about baking for kids, which goes along with your cookbook, and you said we were going to do cobblers, I thought, my gosh, that's kind of complicated. But why cobblers?
You know, there is something fascinating about cobblers because we have cobblers, we have crisp, we have crumbles, we have pandowdy, and it's exciting to know that all across the country, different regions of the country have different cobblers that they make. And so we suggest to families, explore your family history. I know on one side of my family, my grandmother made it one way, and the other side, my grandmother made it the other way. And it's so fun to find out those traditions in your own family.
Well, speaking of the book, and here, this is what it is, but I loved reading it. I learned lots of things. The pandowdy, I wasn't sure about that it was similar to a cobbler. My mother and grandmother, I guess that's one of the first desserts that I learned to make because that's what we always had for Sunday dinner.
Exactly, and it's so easy to make, and you can use fruits that you have on hand, which make it really easy to go to the pantry. That's right.
In the book, there's always a little fun fact with each recipe. There's some information about did you know, and it also tells what supplies you need because, you know, whether it's sewing or cooking or whatever, the most important thing, I think, is to have everything you need ahead of time.
Exactly, especially when you're working with children.
Exactly.
But I think that it is fun to know that every one of the recipes in there does have that. We have a vocabulary word, we have the fun fact, and then a family activity for the family to do that we give that suggestion. And then there's the children's book, literature book. And we have some that we are showing on the set today, but there are so many wonderful books for kids to read about food and learn history a little bit.
And what's your website? There's lots of resources on there.
Yes, homebaking.org.
Okay,
Exactly.
homebaking.org.
Exactly.
Well, let's make
All
this
right.
cobbler.
You start out with fruit, and I love it. You mentioned about having it for Sunday dinner. And the great thing about a cobbler recipe is that it doesn't matter what season of the year. You could use frozen fruit. You could use canned fruit. It's a great opportunity. You could mix them, and we've kind of done that here. And you can go to the grocery store and let the children find their favorite fruits. If they've ever tried them, then it's a good time to try that fruit. Okay, we're going to put that in here.
Just 4 cups
That's
of
4
any,
cups of any
all
kinds of fruit. And to have all the different colors. We have the yellow peaches and strawberries and blueberries, and really makes it fun to look at. Then I'm going to let you add the sugar and cinnamon. This is 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. This gives it a little extra flavor that we're going to sprinkle on that, and then a 1/2 cup of sugar.
And you know, just as you mentioned, a 1/2 cup of this, a teaspoon of that. The thing about baking with kids is you can learn so many things. You can teach, you can learn so many different things in the kitchen. And it's not really like school.
It's right.
They don't
That's
think of
right.
it as school.
And you know, I think you talked about math. It's a great opportunity for kids to learn about math because we don't really think about that with the kitchen. But if it's a recipe they like, ask them, well, what would it be if I doubled the recipe? You know, I need 4 cups, but if I wanted to make it again, It's at 8 cups. You know, let them and involve them. And I think they'd be surprised at how many skills they would need and they could use in the kitchen.
And the fact that so many times now we can use the microwave for some recipes,
yes.
it's so much safer now for children to do so many more things.
That's right.
We don't have to limit them to only stirring.
That's right. And when we get them involved, then they like to taste things and try it. Now with this, we're going to make the topping.
Crust
that's right. And with the cobbler, it's more of like a quick bread, a quick dough. If you're going to do a crumble, it has oatmeal in it. There's the crisp that has just a flour and butter and sugar that is put together.
Sometimes you add oatmeal
yes,
or
and
something.
the oatmeal makes the crumble. That's the tradition with that. But we're going to do this. Now what we have here are 2 different kinds of flour that I wanted to show you. And this is all-purpose flour. It's 1/2 cup.
That probably everybody has in their kitchen, just all-purpose.
And this is a relatively new variety or class of wheat, and it's called whole white wheat flour. It's a little bit whole white wheat, and you can see it's a little bit lighter in color than the whole wheat we might traditionally see.
So
it's a
are
little
we
bit
going to mix
sweeter.
these?
We are. We're going to put both of those in there and put those in there. You
so
could
that's
use
something
either one.
to talk about
exactly.
too. The importance of whole grains or mixtures of grains.
And when we're mixing with children, a whisk. You know, we used to use flour sifters a lot to blend them. You don't have to anymore, but you can use a whisk. You can to help them blend those ingredients. Then this is a 1/4 teaspoon of salt.
And I can remember in 4-H learning to measure and how you had a sharp object of some sort that you leveled it off with.
Right.
And then with liquids, I still to this day don't ever pick it up and look at it, you know, like that, because we were taught to have it level and then you filled it. So it's amazing how those things stay with you.
2 teaspoons of baking powder, to say what I added, and a 1/2 cup of sugar. And that's right. And you know, with some of the new technology we have today, we have the liquid measuring cups that you can look at eye level.
I have
you
one
don't
of
have
those.
to be eye level, but you can look at it down, which makes it great for kids. Then we're going to take that out, the whisk out, and we'll use the spoon, and I'll let you add that. That is a 1/4 cup of melted butter.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And a 1 cup of milk.
And we could use low fat.
We could
use powdered milk, the dry powdered milk.
That's what makes it so
I
nice
love
about
baking with that.
choices. Exactly. And with this then, we're just going to mix it and then just pour it over the top. So it doesn't have to be really precise. I mean, it's a great recipe for kids to learn how to first stir. And we talked earlier about it's good to have different equipment for kids.
Oops,
and
sorry about
no,
that.
That's okay.
I get messy in the kitchen.
And a large bowl is what I was going to say. It's great for kids.
Or bigger one for me.
We're just going to pour that right on this.
And it looks like it would be too runny. You know, it doesn't look like it would ever set up, does it?
No, but it does.
It does.
It bakes up nice. You can see the one we've already baked. I love this one because we did it in an iron skillet.
And how many families have an iron skillet?
You know,
That's
they tuck back in. It's something we used a long time ago, but they bake wonderfully in there. And it was something that they used out on the prairie. They bring out the iron skillet, whatever fruit they had, they would use and make that cobbler for Sunday dinner. This recipe also, instead of using the ingredients that we used here, I used a baking mix. You can either use whole wheat or you can use an all-purpose or one with white flour. But the only change would be that you don't put the leavening and the salt in. Mix that all together and you get a whole wheat one that you've used. So that makes it easy to do as well.
And I thought this was a great idea for kids.
Yes.
Tell about this.
Well, I thought here we have this baking mix. What else could we do with it to include families and children? And you know, all during the year there are opportunities to recognize other people to say thank you to for part of community service. A
or
coach.
for their schools.
Exactly.
Their
a
coaches.
Sunday school teacher, a school teacher. So we put the dry ingredients in the little container here, made it festive with a little piece of cloth, and then have the child write the recipe down, or you can print it off the internet. The recipe's on our internet. And give that to someone as a thank you for something they've done for you that I think is a really nice community service for children.
And in this book, it's really wonderful. When I first saw the CD, which is right here, I thought it was probably just a reading of the book, but it's not, is it?
It's not, and that's why I love to mention it. It's because it's a conversational style. If you're going on a family vacation, or if you're going to drive to the country to get your fresh fruit, it'd be great to put it in. It's a conversational style about where does fruit come from, or let's visit Italy and try this recipe. Do you know where pizza came from? And it just tells, so instead of listening to a music CD, you could listen to a little bit of information.
Well, that's a good idea. And last but not least, since we've baked our cobbler and we have it plated, Most of us think of whipped cream on a
Right.
cobbler, or ice cream. I do like ice cream, especially on peach cobblers, but this is something a little different.
It is. It's a different option with it. We call it a marshmallow topping, and it uses equal parts of marshmallow cream and cream cheese. So if you're
That's
using
easy.
a half a cup of each of those, blend it until it's mixed up good. And you can see it makes it fluffy. It stands up so perfectly on that. And you can serve that either hot or cold, really. Our cobblers are great warm out of the oven, but don't be disappointed. If you let it go to room temperature, it's still a wonderful
I've never
dessert
seen
to
a
have.
cobbler go to waste.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I think the things that you have put in the book about the importance of working with children at a young age are what's really important. What you prepare is not nearly as important as what they will learn and gain. And like you said, talk about family history. I happen to have an old iron skillet that was my mother's. I don't use it very often because it's heavy, but I do have it and to talk to my grandkids about where it came from, about their
Exactly.
ancestors.
And you know, you get a little bit different baking when you do the cobbler in an iron skillet. It bakes a little bit different than it does in a pan. When we do the glass a Pyrex dish here like this, we'll want to lower the temperature 25 degrees or it'll bake a little too fast. But
See, those are interesting tips
it
too.
makes it easier and things that you can talk to your children about.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank
making us aware of
you.
that. Erica, I'm so glad it worked out for you to come here to show us about your template, and I know you're traveling across the country and having such good response for this template that you're going to show us in just a minute, but thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You took a class one time, maybe briefly tell about this, how you got started and saw a need for such a template.
Okay, it was several years ago. I was working on a new design which had 4 quilts in it, and I needed a border that was just going to pop. So one day I walk into a quilt shop, and the minute I saw this design, I knew what my quilts would look like, and I had to have it in my life, and it's the cathedral window block.
That's what this pattern's called.
Correct.
Quilters probably know what
This is
that is.
cathedral window block. And normally this technique has always been done by hand,
Oh.
although this class was for machine. Okay, so I signed up to take the class. And in class, our instructor gave us this paper template because this is what they've used forever. And after the 3rd block, this started happening to the corners.
Kind of falling apart.
It is falling apart. And that's the most important part, is to have nice, crisp corners.
And these don't even meet.
Correct. So
all
this
of
is the
them.
pillow that I made in class. And if you look, it's so horrible because all these great big holes in between. And this is the reason, is because of the corners.
Oh.
And so I got frustrated, and I knew how many blocks I had ahead of me. And so my wheel started spinning, and I came out with this. It's a heat-resistant template.
Oh,
And
clear.
I call it the 9-inch seam pressing template. And I have done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of blocks with it,
Those
and tons
points
of
are
classes.
still sharp.
And those are really nice and crisp still. So I'd like to demonstrate how this technique
Okay.
is done. It's very slick. Okay. So you start with a 10-inch square of fabric. So layer cakes are pre-cut fabrics that
Layer
are
cakes.
sold in quilt shops.
Okay.
And you can purchase those. Those are perfect if you wanted to make a scrappy quilt. So the first thing you want to do, the most important thing to remember with this template is that you want to use a dry iron on it.
Oh,
Okay,
that's a good
it's going to
point.
warp a little bit. It's going to end up bending and stuff. But if you put steam on it, it's going to warp it to where you cannot use it.
Oh, so use a
you-
dry iron.
Dry iron only.
Okay.
So you have a 10-inch square of fabric, and go ahead and center the template on the inside. First thing you're going to do, dog ear all 4 corners down nice and tight. And if you see, I'm pulling that fabric pretty tight. So I'm going to go ahead and press down all these corners. And at the same time, you see that my left hand is always on the template at this point, so that
just
it
wanna-
won't move around.
I see, yeah.
Okay.
Because this is really crucial. This is
This
what
is
sets
the
the
most
stage for those
important-
points.
Correct. You have to have nice crisp seams. Then you're going to come back and you're going to miter the corners,
Just like
just like
wrapping presents or card
Correct.
making or whatever.
Yep. And this iron is just going to glide right on there, and it's
Oh,
going
and
to.
it's okay for the iron to
It's a heat-resistant
touch.
template.
Yeah.
Yep. So now I am right-handed, so I like working on the right side. So after I do this side, I'm just going to gingerly
can-
pick it up, turn it.
Now, does the plastic get hot where you can't touch it, or is it pretty still
No, not so much.
touchable?
It's not a heating pad, so we don't want to leave the iron on there too long, but it's just enough to give it a press. So once you go all the way around the template, it's going to look something like this.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So I make a stack of these, like 10, 15 of them, and then I'm going to set the template aside and switch the iron to steam.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then I'm going to give it a quick press like this.
So you don't use the template after you do this initial?
Correct.
Okay.
You'll do like 10 or 15. It depends on what it is that you're making. So the pillow only has 9 blocks. So I would recommend doing all 9 blocks with the dry iron.
Okay.
And then go ahead and switch the iron to steam, give it a quick press. And now you want to find the center. So you press it in half and iron that, and then I always open it up again
The
and
other
press
way.
just up against the seam I already have. Next thing you want to do is to take this corner up to the center and press it.
See, I would like this because I like real sharp, crisp lines.
And that you have to have nice crisp corners. And these corners, so once you go all the way around this block, you're going to have this.
Oh, okay. All the corners are
All the
folded in and
corners.
pressed.
Yep, and so
Got it.
now you're going to go ahead and do that one more time. Up to
Oh.
the center and press it all the way around until you have this block.
Okay.
Now I want you to pay attention to how it's so important that all 4 of those corners are barely touching each other. Okay. Now that your blocks are all ironed, you're going to go ahead.
So you can sort of do this in an assembly line.
You can. Yep. They're mixed colors, but I wanted to also show the creases are sometimes hard to see if you use a darker fabric, so it's okay to go ahead and just mark with a
White pencil or
right,
something.
marking pencil.
Okay.
So now that your irons or your blocks are all ironed, go ahead and lay them out the way you want them. And the way you sew them together is you're going to pick up these 2 triangle ends, and you're going to sew right in that crease line corner to corner.
Oh, that's easy enough.
You don't care if the tips match or not.
Because you've already assured that they match in the middle.
In the middle,
I see.
exactly, exactly. So now if you want to make them longer, you just go ahead and keep adding to the sides. And the way you sew your rows together is you're going to go ahead and pick up these 2 triangles and sew those together. Now that it's all sewn together, you're going to go into each individual block and secure all 4 corners down.
So this one has 6 now.
Yes,
You've extended
I
it.
sewn 6 of them together. Now you're going to go into each individual block and secure all 4 points down in the center.
Just by machine?
By
or did
machine.
You do it by,
I'll do a couple little back stitches, 2 to 3 stitches in each corner.
Oh, that just
And
holds that down.
At this point, you want to make sure all those points are barely touching each other.
Okay.
And this is a good example of different fabrics have different textures and different, you can tell that the solid red in here has more of a stretch than the printed red.
Well, now, don't most quilters use 100% cotton? Is that true or not?
I don't know. There's so many different kinds of
Yeah.
fabrics out there. Like the batiks are very, very tight and sometimes can be
True.
stretchy as well. So it just depends on what it is that
What
you
you
choose.
use. Okay.
But just so that you know, it's okay. Because once you get to this point, you'll play around with it. The next thing that you want to do is you want to have 2 3/4 inch squares is what you want to
2 3/4
start
inch.
with. And because of the tightness, it could also it depends on the fabrics that you choose.
If
You could
it's-
also use a 2 1/2 inch square. So anywhere from 2 1/2 to 2 3/4. I like to start with a 2 3/4, and if you feel you want to cut it down further, then you can.
You can.
It's better to
But
cut
you can't
than
grow it.
exactly, exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so now that you have all of your points down and all that, you have your squares. A lot of people think that they should go inside that block somehow, and it does not. It goes in between the blocks. So see all of the diamonds in there? Go ahead and lay your windows, okay?
That's the window part
The
of
window
the cathedral
part,
window.
correct.
Okay.
And then all you're going to do is you're going to roll this. Because it's a bias edge, this just rolls right over the top of it, okay? So go ahead and set this in your sewing machine, and all you're going to do is just start the top stitch as close to the edge as you can as possible. I'm going to get halfway and stop, and then I'm going to lift this up and tuck this in.
Oh, I was going to
And
say,
then
why
it
wouldn't you
automatically
go?
keeps on rolling. So here's a finished project, or piece of the
And that's
puzzle
why it's
there.
better to start with that 2 3/4 rather than 2 1/2,
Right.
because you have plenty of fabric to catch under there.
Right, because, yeah, and sometimes it's too much. So that's why you'd want to cut it down to 2 1/2.
Okay.
Because you end up tucking it in there, so. And that's it.
And these do roll easily. I tried this yesterday because it is, like you say, on a bias.
Right.
So it folds nicely. You don't even use pins, I guess, do you?
No, I'll pin these in place.
I was going to say I probably would
I would
have
pin
to.
those in place, especially if they're multicolors. That way you can arrange them, like on the pillow there. You can arrange them around in the way that you want them and pin them in place so that when you're sewing one, the rest of them don't fall off.
Oh, that's a good point. How long would it take you to make just a pillow? Just
I do workshops and classes, and I always schedule 5 hours. Some women take that long, some don't. So it takes me 3 hours.
And
from
this
start
has
to
9
finish.
blocks.
That has 9 blocks and 12 windows.
12 windows. Now, if somebody, the template is what? It's about 9 inches?
It's a 9-inch
It's a 9-inch
template,
template. Do people ever say, well, can I cut it down because I want to make a smaller
They have in
quilt?
the past, yes, and I actually had tried that as well, and it was just really petite, and it was cute, but it was just more bulky and harder to work with. And of course, they've always asked if I've made larger ones, and I said no. This is the perfect size, I think.
I do too.
Yeah, because it takes a lot of fabric, but you also remember that you do not have batting or backing. So as you are sewing the top, you're also quilting the back. And
We want to take a look at that because
flip
I think
this
that's
over
amazing.
a little bit.
Now, this one's called this is a scrappy
This
quilt.
is the scrappy
In fact,
quilt, and this actually comes with the template itself. So there's a pattern in there that has all of the instructions in there. So again, as you're sewing the top, you're also quilting the back. All you have to do is throw the binding on there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That does cut out a lot of the work.
It does.
Now, this one we wanted to show because it still has the backing on it.
Right. So this was a good example of, because of the quilting that's already done on the border, and this is so pretty, I didn't want my quilter to cover it up. So I had her just go ahead and quilt the center, and after she did, I did a sloppy job at trimming it, but eventually I would just go ahead and tuck this in and then just hand stitch that down.
Now, why doesn't this go all the way across?
Because I wanted the border to be seen.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Gosh, this is a lot of quilting detail.
so good.
She's very good. Okay. Well, the thing I asked you when I first saw this, I said, well, can you do this on any type of quilt? And you said, yeah.
Yes, you can. And I have incorporated it in several of my quilts. There's a theme that I have, and it's called Believe in Me. Okay.
And so we're going to take a look. The first one is a pattern red, white, and blue, which is interesting. You can use this with any colors
Yeah,
that you
and
want.
it's called the American Window.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, you can use football colors or high school colors. I like the patriotic look, so I went ahead and did the red, white, and blue.
And it's really pretty. What about the one with Santa? Now, this
Okay,
kind
that-
of has a story.
Yeah, this is the one that inspired me to use this block because I had done a quilt prior to this, and it was all hand embroidery. And after I had finished him, he's called Christmas Past. After I finished that quilt, I realized that the hat could have popped a little bit bigger.
It was
so I
kind
thought,
of blah.
well, and I thought, why didn't I applique his hat? It would have popped. So months passed, it was too late, you know, and finally I just got tired of thinking about it, so I redid it.
You did it.
And it turned out, it's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous.
Yeah. And that's Believe in Me, Santa.
And the next one is called True Love.
Yeah, Believe in True Love. And I did that one actually as a border as well, but it's also in strips. So it's broken up into 2 different strips that float within the quilt itself.
And it's, when you look at these, it's almost, you have to really search because it's hard to see the cathedral window because the fabrics look totally different.
Yeah, and it's, as you're looking at all of these, you can tell the different effects that it has if you use a solid background or a multicolor background. So
Right.
it's pretty fun to change colors and play around with it.
Well, it is, and we saved the best for last, maybe. It's inspiration.
Yep, Believe in Me, inspirational, and I did that one as blocks itself. And it refers to the traditional white background with the colored windows, kind of like the pillow
For a
here.
wedding or an anniversary or, wow,
Yeah.
anybody would love to receive it.
Yeah.
And so within the packet, they get the template, they get instructions.
Correct?
We don't need that because that didn't work.
And they have, and they get the free pattern for the scrappy quilt as well.
And it would be a good one, I think, for beginners to start
Oh,
on.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a good little throw.
Well, thank you so much for showing us how easy this is to do and how beautiful your quilts are. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed the show today. Next time on Creative Living, we'll learn how to use Zentangles on fabric and find out how to select the perfect pair of jeans for anyone's figure type. One of my next guests is an artist and designer, and she's going to explain what a Zentangle is and tell how it got started. She'll also talk about different methods of making quilts using Zentangles on fabric. For many women, the selection of a pair of jeans is difficult. Another guest on the next show is a wardrobe consultant and author, and she'll share some concepts that can guide each woman to her ideal choice. She'll discuss color, fabric, leg cut, and style details as well as fit. I hope you'll plan to join me next time for Creative Living.
We are very pleased to offer a special booklet that accompanies this series of Creative Living. We are celebrating our 40th year on PBS. This booklet is titled the 40th Anniversary Series, and it features a wonderful collection of ideas and information, and it's available free of charge on our website. Posted as a PDF file, you can simply download the entire booklet or just the segments you're most interested in. For your copy of this commemorative booklet, go to our website at kenw.org and then click on Creative Living. Scroll down to the booklet section, and you can click on this booklet or on any of the other booklets we have available online. We would like to invite you to sign up for our free e-newsletter too. Go to kenw.org and click on the Sign Up Now button and input your email address. That's all there is to it. We would also like to ask you to become a fan of Creative Living on Facebook. Go to facebook.com and in the search window type in Creative Living with Sheryl Borden. Thanks so much. We look forward to hearing from you.